My name is Jeff Wolpov. I'm the Senior Vice President. I run e-commerce, omni-channel fulfillment, retail, as well as Ryder Last Mile at Ryder. So it's great to be here today. Certainly my pleasure to be with Scott Dulany. Scott, why don't you introduce yourself?
Jeff, you told me you wanted to do a fireside chat at the Horseshoe. I thought you'd be in more Western wear, maybe some pearl snaps and cowboy boots. A little disappointed.
My boots didn't fit in my suitcase.
Fair enough.
I wasn't going to check a bag.
I'm Scott Dulany, Chief Operating Officer at Mugsy, a small apparel company. I run, at our little company, I wear a lot of hats. I run the product team, the stores team, and the operations team. Prior to this, I ran product at Chubby's. A lot of people familiar with that brand, another small apparel brand that grew. And then before that, I started my career at Abercrombie & Fitch, running merchandising and sourcing in men's bottoms.
Well, that's great. And as far as me, I've been an entrepreneur my entire career. Started a business in 1990. Very fortunate to have only one job throughout my entire career. Built a business from $300,000 in sales to, I don't know, $430 million of sales. Sold it 3 times along the way. And now very happy to be a part of the Ryder family. But Scott, what we're really going to be talking about today are some of the challenges that everybody's facing. We're facing some economic headwinds. We've been in a freight recession. Retail is a little upside down. But what we really want to talk about today is what do we need to do in order to win in 2026? And so when we were starting to think about, what this talk could be, I was on the internet and this quote just jumped out at me. Right? If your customer buys once, you made a sale. If they come back, you build trust. But if they tell others, you built a brand. And getting to know you and getting to know the Mugsy brand after all this time, I figured that this would really resonate with you because the brand is so much more than just what you manufacture. It's really the way you make people feel. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how Mugsy got started, the essence of the Mugsy brand, talk about the importance of culture for Mugsy and the interaction with your customers.
And that's a lot.
I can repeat the question.
No, that's good. I had not actually seen this quote before, but it certainly resonates with the way we've been building the brand for the last 10 years. For those of you who aren't familiar with Mugsy, we're a lifestyle apparel brand. We started 10 years ago, and we're built really on, funny enough, men's stretch denim, super stretch. At the time, 10 years ago, that was really differentiated. If there was stretch in men's jeans, it was 98%, 99% cotton, 1 or 2% spandex. And our founder decided to take women's jegging material, which is softer, lighter, much stretchier, and put it in a classic 5-pocket men's denim silhouette. Not too baggy, not too tight. It's something that was really versatile. So, not athleisure, but something that's truly, a lifestyle product that you could wear to the office. You could dress it up, you could dress it down, and it's funny. Funny story. Our founder is one of my best friends, and I was in apparel. He was at PricewaterhouseCoopers, just hated his job and wanted to get out of it. Had a number of ideas he was kicking around. I told him to not do apparel. It's very difficult to get off the ground. He didn't listen to me, thankfully. But the essence was he created this great product, did a Kickstarter campaign when that was still around. It was funded, and kind of off to the races. Fast forward 10 years, we now have a full lifestyle apparel brand that kind of surrounds our core product of stretch jeans. We've got everything from outerwear to swim, and we also have 9 stores. So we're starting to dip our toe in some of this omni-channel. We are bootstrapped, and we've been really diligent on the financial side, wanting to make sure that we don't need to go raise money. We can kind of grow at our own pace, and really from day one, the goal was growing through cash flow, and so that's been a big part of our story on the back, kind of under the hood, and kind of why we're kind of have this intentional growth, and why we went into retail over the last 5 years.
It's interesting getting to know you, getting to know the executive team, being in your stores. There's a feel, there's a vibe to Mugsy. To me, any business is nothing without the people. And so anybody I talk to at Mugsy, you guys all drink the Kool-Aid. And you have this connection with your customers. Can you just talk a little bit about how important culture is to success today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing going back to the brand, we always wanted to have some word that was synonymous with Mugsy. That was really important to us, something that people could understand if they hadn't heard of the brand before. And for us, that was comfort. Comfort was, was perfect for the super stretch jeans and for the apparel line we were building and for how we wanted our customer to feel. You know, how you want to have this, you know, level of comfort when you walk into the store, when you surf the website, when you see the advertisement. You just don't want it to be transactional. You want it to be comfortable. And so, you know, we started to you know, shout from the mountaintops, comfort anywhere, ridiculously comfortable, and really we preached that from day one and started to lean into that in a big way, which I think, you know, our customers resonated with our customers. You know, they felt like it was comfortable, and they felt comfortable. We've always been, our culture is customer centric. So every decision we make, we think about the customer. Some of them are tough decisions. Some of them are things that maybe don't help the customer. We've increased prices twice over the last 5 years. We have not this year. We've been really intentional about how we weather the storm, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit. But for the most part, we're making decisions that are really for the best of the customer, and in turn, best for the brand, because we're not a company, we're not a brand without our customers around us. And we really, our internal team has a lot of autonomy to make those decisions on their own. We surround ourselves with really smart, you know, a really smart team, a really smart, nimble team, but a really smart team and a great group of partners that help us, you know, kind of navigate the waters, but make the decisions that are customer centric.
Yeah, when we think about success in 25 and 26, I think it all starts with people. I think you do need to be aligned. Yep. You need to be rowing in the same direction. And by the way, I can attest, because not only am I a service provider, but I am also a customer. And these are very comfortable. So I appreciate it. So this is a topic that should be relevant to everybody in this room. And by the way, Jess just got here. So Jess, do you want us to start over again, or you're good? Okay. So this is a topic that should really resonate with everybody, because business is very hard on its own. But when you have this disruption and you have this chaos and you have this uncertainty, it is really difficult to make strategic decisions. Discretionary spending today is almost non-existent. M&A activity, although it's starting to pick up a little bit today, for the last 2 years it's been non-existent because margins are down, multiples are down, money's expensive. If you have a good company, you're going to wait. And so now we're faced with this kind of turmoil. And so I am really curious, you know, having an emerging brand, a growing business where growth drives your business, how are you dealing with this uncertainty, certainly around immigration from a labor perspective and tariffs from a cost perspective?
And it's been just chaos for, I feel like, the last 5 years, from COVID to the transportation crisis, even in an election year, how much that impacts marketing spend, you know, and now we've got tariffs. You know, I'm very thankful, going back to people, that we've got a great founder and I've got a great business partner in our CEO, and we really work together to make a lot of these decisions. I think we're also decision makers, though. We set ourselves up with exit ramps if needed, and we will you know, take action. Hey, we need to do this. And the example is we diversified our supply chain back in 2021. When I joined, I've been a big fan. I'm more of a product guy, as you guys heard from my background, than I am an ops guy. But I'm a big fan of having a diverse supply chain, mainly to hold each other so they hold each other accountable. Some people are, you know, fans putting kind of all your eggs in one basket, you know, economies of scale, maybe a little bit better pricing. But I feel like, you know, when you've got different players, you know, you're holding them accountable from a QC standpoint. They've got to match prices. There's competition. So during right as COVID was breaking, we were on a around the world trip, and we moved our supply chain at that time from all in China to China, Vietnam, and Egypt, and had great relationships with all of those different partners, and they've each helped us grow. And you know, to me, that's like giving ourselves that off ramp that was needed. I mean, the other side effect of that is we can make a decision to flex into one country or out of another country, you know, as needed, and we've done that this year. In March, you know, we preemptively went on a trip to meet with our partners and not go ask them to, you know, cover the cost of this, but like talk creatively, think creatively. How do we approach this? What are things we can do? I mean, some of it is, you know, moving some of this supply, but other things. I mean, for instance, in Egypt, we had been bringing all of our fabric from China all the way to Egypt to produce it, which has been very difficult. The supply chain on that's, you know, really hard. But now we're starting to get fabric. You know, it's our recipe of the fabric, so getting it from a terrific mill in that region, and it's cutting costs in a big way. And it was a big lift, but you know, it's things like that, thinking creatively and working with partners that have helped us kind of navigate this more immediate term. But it's certainly hard when the goalposts continue to change. I think that's, you know, I kind of put on my ops hat in one, you know, in one moment, and I put on my business leader hat in the other one. We're managing a P&L and talking about 26 to 28. What does our forecast look like? And it's like, what the fuck is going to happen in China next, or when are these tariffs changing, or and there's still 30% of our production there. But we're starting to create this ability for us to. I mean, we've been shifting a lot more of it away from there. There's still some stuff that they make for us specifically, but the labor doesn't hit us as much. Although we have moved some production back to the U.S. and in doing that, we work with a couple of great factories in the Los Angeles area, and even within a couple of months, you're seeing prices go up because capacity is shrinking because of immigration problems. So it's kind of feel like everywhere you turn, there's some challenge, and I think it comes back to having a great leadership team. And I'm not talking about the two of us. I'm talking about the execs in the room that are at our company that are helping us kind of face these challenges.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and you're not in this alone. We have 300 customers, and every one of our customers is experiencing something very similar. And so they're going back to their factories, and there's only so much you could beat people up on price. So it's process, or it's packaging. Yep. It is fine-tuning systems, trying to take some of the manual aspects out of it and automate it. It is to get rid of LTL shipments and consolidate and make sure you're taking advantage of cube. It's putting it into the ocean instead of air. It's things that you can do that is going to make your business better going forward, but you need to do it out of necessity. One of the great things about being a part of the Ryder organization is we get to look at all different things through Ryder Ventures, through our partnership group. But one of the things that we do, and this is the 10th year that we've done this study, where we go ahead and we hire an independent third party to go out there and do a survey. We go to over 1,000 people across the country looking at the same demographics of the country, because it's not just vendors and service providers and retailers that are being impacted by this. In fact, it's the consumer. Some of the things that came out of the study is 43% of the people that we studied said that they're going to buy less this year because of inflation and higher costs. And then almost 50%, 48% of the people that we surveyed said that they're going to comparison shop much more than they ever did. When they're in a store, they're going to use their phone. When they're online, they're going to continue to search. And so everybody is trying to figure out how to do more with less, because we do have to figure out a way to combat these rising prices. So let's talk about this for a second now, because you've got this business, you've got these headwinds, you've got this commitment to your customer and to your associates, and you started off as a D2C brand. And so now, when you think about omni-channel, right, omni-channel is really, in our mind, it's getting merchandise to the consumer any way that consumer wants to buy it. Does the consumer want to go to a specialty store? Do they want to go to a department store, a big box store? Do they want to go to a kiosk? Do they want to go to a home shopping? Do they want to buy it online? And so having the ability to be able to get the goods to the customer any way the customer wants to buy them is essential today. And we would have a digitally native business. Today, we don't have a digitally native business that doesn't have another channel of distribution. You guys started off digitally native. And it's still your driver today. What are you thinking about omni-channel, and how important is that to your customer?
Hugely important to the customer, and hugely important to our growth path, for sure. I think that there's a reality around, again, we're growing. Cash flow is what sustains our growth. So I think there's some level of, and going back to your, talking about M&A and that environment, we had talked about raising money at one point. We decided not to. There wasn't much out there. So some of it is just a product of the environment right now. But we certainly see it as very important for us kind of over the next couple of years. Stores was the first place where we started to dip our toe into omni-channel and started to think about, is the juice worth the squeeze for us? And the reality is we were coming out of, in the 20-teens, everything was DTC. Everything was, forget profitability, doesn't matter, growth at all costs. And that was just, the mindsets were very different. And so, we opened our first store in 2021, really is just a project. I lived in Chicago, our founder lived in Chicago, we just built it ourselves. We literally,
more of a lab.
Yeah, more of
right?
a lab, exactly. Yeah. It was more of a lab and almost a fun pet project.
A good place to go hang out.
Exactly. Well, that goes to the, it did start to invoke this personality that the brand that we knew the brand had, but you got to see it in physical form, which started to actually be really cool. Being surrounded by the products, not just seeing pictures of it or in my office of development samples, but seeing it like merchandised really well with a great manager and associates that worked there. We put in a fridge that had Topo Chicos and Coca-Cola in bottles because we just thought that was we wanted to aspire to be an I don't like to say like premium because that's like $200. We kind of want to strive. We want to be a little bit more approachable than that. So I would say very elevated, very approachable brand, and very elevated, very approachable store. But people come in and it's like, hey, would you like a Coke? We also have local beer. It's just, hey, what brings you in today? What do you guys want to, you want to hang out for a little bit? And that was kind of the approach in our stores.
I know Weinstein would prefer tequila.
I'll make sure that I got that on his next trip to Chicago. Yeah, so it was really an interesting experience for us to kind of be surrounded by the brand and start to like think about how that approach would be for the customers that walk in. And so we opened a second store in 2022 in Chicago and a third store in Austin to really double down and really learn about this particular channel for us. We're a crawl, walk, run organization. I don't want to say mastered digitally native, not at all, but we were, that was a growth channel. We had that pretty well figured out, and now it's going to be stores is kind of the next thing we were thinking about. But the interesting thing was the KPIs on stores for us were terrific, especially the customer that's acquired through that store. We're going to talk about returns in a minute, I know. Returns, anybody could guess this, but they're 4 times less for us in a store. The average order value was 25% more. The lifetime value of a customer acquired through the store was substantially higher. The CSAT score, the customer satisfaction after being in the store, was much higher. And it was very high already online, but it started to be like an aha moment of like, hey, this is a great experience. And to your point from earlier, we can't meet the customer in all of these places yet. I think that's our goal is long term. But start to meet them in other spots and hopefully start to enable, BOPIS or buy online, pick up in store, or they can already return in store, shipping from stores, things like that. And we've grown to 9 stores. It's one other piece. Again, we're very disciplined when it comes to our financials. We want to make sure that each channel is profitable on its own, or maybe a loss leader, but is profitable on its own in an ideal state. And it has been. We've been kind of strategic about our store's growth, and we just opened our 9th store in Georgetown on M Street last weekend. So,
well, that's fantastic. You read that opening a store enhances and escalates the D2C. Have you seen in the locations where you do have a store, have you seen an increase in the D2C volume?
That's a great point, because we were so concerned about cannibalization, it almost like stopped us from even running the test. We were concerned about it so much, especially in the Chicago area, which was at the time one of our biggest markets. Still is a big market for us, but it actually was the opposite. We call it a halo effect. We see more online sales in the places we have stores. We've also been strategic about putting stores in areas that are maybe more visible. We have a small office in Charleston where I now live. We have a store on King Street. Not many people, Charleston isn't a huge market for us on the digitally native side. It's getting bigger, but that store is one of our best stores because of all the tourists walking by. And so it's definitely a way for us also, like a call to action. Hey, you can inviting place, come in here. It's a very comfortable environment. Try on a pair of comfortable jeans. But I think there's an aspect about CAC, or acquiring new customers for it as well, that we're seeing as a big benefit.
So let's talk about the post-purchase experience. You touched on returns. Returns are extremely costly. However, in a D2C world, it's just a fact of life that returns, and the higher your price point, the higher the percentage of returns. And so when in part of our study, there's 57% of the people surveyed said that they won't buy from a retailer if they don't have a free return policy. It's that important. People are looking at it. It is really impactful as far as and part of the survey, probably 9% more than last year, said that they think they're going to return more than they did the year before. And a huge percentage, I think it is 62%, said that they expect to probably return the same. So whether you like returns or not, whether you think it's good money after bad, it's a fact of life. And so how do you deal with returns?
Yeah, I think it's a fact of life. And for us, from the very beginning of building this brand, when you're trying to get, especially a new product that's differentiated at the time, again, 10 years ago, the Super Stretch, and people are like, oh, is this a skinny jean? Is this whatever? We offered free returns from the very beginning because we thought it was a great customer experience. And we wanted to deliver a consistent experience. Part of the comfort anywhere mentality is let's continue to deliver a consistent experience to that customer. They expect free returns. Let's make sure they continue to get that. I think similarly, more than 50% of our customers are new customers. So even though that was 10 years ago, I still want every single customer to come in and there to be no friction at all, frictionless process in the checkout process, a terrific experience on the website, it not be too cluttered, to be merchandised well, nice photos, and when they get to the checkout page, and we don't want there to be any hesitation on hitting that buy button. And that to me it helps conversion rate. And yes, so maybe a little bit of a loss leader, and it does cost us $20 per return. But to me, it starts to the important piece for us that we focus on is how do we change a return, or within returns we have refunds and exchanges. How do we make sure that we're refunding as little as possible? And that's where we're really focused.
This is an opportunity for us to pick up market share. Like, we could get these folks, we could get them red headsets, and they could come on over. I don't think they realize how stimulating this conversation is. But
come join the club.
Returns are impactful. It is part of the customer experience. Do you think about rewarding good behavior and penalizing bad behavior when it comes to returns?
I mean, we have had some, especially more recently, fraud come up. So, and so that we have a very short blacklist of some people. I mean, that are buying, tens of thousands of dollars worth of product and returning it. And so there's an aspect of that's unsustainable. And then the only place where we still are very big in comfort, and not just in the clothes, but hey, we want everybody on their first purchase, on their 30th purchase, to be comfortable. They want to buy it for their son or their brother or their uncle, whatever it is. Like, they want them to feel comfortable. They can return it if they need to. And so for us, it's hard for us to ever change that. We did talk about it in last year. I know that there was a number of brands that we kind of interact with that were changing their policies to not offer free returns anymore. We did consider it, but we felt like it was too degrading to the brand and to our story and our stance. The only thing that we've done is happy returns has been a big help to us. The bar returns, basically, parcel returns cost us $8 or $9 per shipping label back to the warehouse, whereas returns at a bar cost $5 or $6, so substantially less. So we started to reward customers to go to those returns bars, and reward we would, if you get a packing slip or a shipping label and you live close to a return bar, you get charged $5 for it. So and really before we did that, 60% of the people returned at returns bars and 40% did not. And then now it's 90% return to returns bars and 10% do not. And we still offer free return labels if you don't live within a 10-mile radius. We want to make sure it's still very approachable. But that was one thing that we did that did change customer behavior. It was something we've been kind of back and forth on, but we feel like it was the right thing to do. And in our customer, we do focus groups every year, a couple different times, and most customers in the focus groups talked about the ease of returning to the return bar and that they prefer it. The 60-40, it felt like it was just kind of moving in that direction. I think the year before that it was like 30% at return bar. So it had just been moving that direction, and so we wanted to get people to move in that direction faster.
Yeah, we've done a big study, and if you're a 3PL, you need to be looking at returns because it's very important to your customer. And returns is very broad. Most people just don't realize it. It's not just the activity that goes on in the warehouse. It's the label generation, it's the drop-off, it's the shipping. But the reality is the most important thing to a brand is the recovery value that you're going to be able to get. And so when you have this, you want to get it back to stock quickly because you want an opportunity to sell it, or you want to try to instigate an exchange, or you want them to come into the store so they could potentially purchase more. How are you trying to maximize your recovery value of the return?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two answers to that. The first is on the recovery value of the product itself. I mean, a normal product costs us, between $15 and $20 to get into the U.S. And so I need to make sure, as much as I can, recover as many of those products that come that are, that are being returned back to stock. And so, a big ask of our 3PLs in the past has been like, do you have refurbishment methods? Can I wash things? Do I want to wash them? There's definitely a subjective component to it, and still a decent amount of it gets damaged out. But some stuff comes back in poly bags, never been opened. Some stuff comes back has never been tried on, doesn't have a poly bag. Some stuff comes back and needs some refurbishment. So I think there's a component about that operation that's been very helpful to set up, because I think we went from 75% of the product going back to stock to something like 85 or 90%. And that costs us money, but not as much money as bringing it in, especially when there's uncertainty around what the tariffs are going to be when I'm bringing more product in the future. So that's been helpful. And then to your point on recovering like dollars from the customer, this is where we've been really focused in our company. How do we move things from a return to an exchange, from a refund to an exchange? So we kind of look at a full return rate, because that operation is going to be what costs me money. And then within the return rate, there's a refund and the exchange rate. And we found that making the process for returning things as seamless as possible has helped make the exchange rate better. And so, and we work with a group called Loop. A lot of people are probably familiar with them, but they've got a great tech that kind of plugs into our site and makes the process of an exchange very, very easy. And that's something that for us is important with so many new customers and 33 size variants on jeans. It makes it kind of hard as people kind of figure, especially when they're stretch jeans and people are kind of moving from one to another. People are trying things a lot. So a lot of times we do have this exchange aspect, and for it to be seamless, frictionless, easy. I mean, that's just us keeping the dollars with us. And we do reward them too. If somebody's chosen a refund, we ask them at the very end, hey, if you change this to an exchange or to store credit, we'll give you X percent more right now to kind of help keep those dollars with us.
That's great. We started off this conversation by talking about how challenging it is out there, and that we're in a rising cost environment, and our customers are challenged. They're thinking about every purchase they make. And so we all have to figure out a way to do more with less. We have to drive efficiencies. We have to try to figure out how to be more effective. And so today, it's very prominent around automation and AI. For automation in a warehouse, it's robotics, and then AI, data analytics. So I know you guys are always forward thinking. You guys are the first one to raise your hands when we come to you with a novel idea. We introduce the gray-orange goods to person. Talk a little bit about how automation enhances your business.
I mean, we're certainly excited about the investments that our partners are making. We see some of that with our overseas partners that are producing products as well, like the companies and partners that are investing in automation. We're more excited to engage with, just because I think that there's a lot of upside in the long term. I know that there's recouping the investment on that, but our goal is that that's going to create efficiencies over time, which will eventually be passed to the customer. So it's, there's definitely that component, but we also want to be in the room with people who are forward thinkers. Our team, our partners. So that's important to us, and we're certainly not experts in the area, and so we're kind of leaning on you guys to help, our partners to help us understand the landscape and kind of what's to come. Internally, we've been a little bit late to the game, but we have been using AI in things like product development. As I mentioned, I run our product team, and so we're doing a lot less sample sending back and forth because I'm able to get 3D renderings and colors and things of that nature more quickly. We're sending out more. We're able to A/B test more ads, so we're doing that on the creative side, and we're starting to use it in inventory planning. We actually are in the works of, it's probably going to take about a year, but to kind of interconnect all. The problem right now is all of these different AIs are their own little silos, and it's not talking to each other.
Streamlining the data, making it available, making it reliable, making it accountable. It's the key to the whole thing. If you don't have that data, you can't utilize it.
100%, and that's what we're working on now. Over the next year, we will have all of that streamlined and put together. We're basically going to have a data warehouse that's going to be AI generated. So we're investing in that now. It's I think that's going to, the benefits of that are going to be on us making better, more informed decisions and running the business. And there's obviously a lot of automation, hopefully upside with our partners and on the physical side of things.
AI gets thrown around a lot, and it's the panacea of AI. It's going to cure everything. It's going to make everything better. It's going to make everything faster. The reality of it is there's two components. There's a data component, and then there's the problem that you need to identify that you need to solve. You can't solve them all. And so by just identifying a problem, and I'll give you an example in our world, freight optimization. We've got a fast-growing small parcel business. And it's very hard for us to compete with UPS. If UPS wanted to, they could have lower rates than we do, and there's nothing we can do about it. However, through a partner, we're able to use AI, and we're able to say, okay, given these package parameters, given this weight, given speed, given distance, and use 6, 7 different providers. I didn't really mean to do 6, 7, but it just kind of came natural. 6, 7 different providers, that way we can be effective. And we can compete with a provider like a UPS or FedEx, because they're not going to be the best solution for every zone and every package, especially today when people are starting to trade off speed for cost, right? So there's lots of different dynamics, but by having access to the data, we can now go around the country. We can figure out, based on carton parameters, based on DIMS, based on weight, based on speed, based on zones, who the best provider is, and then collectively, we can compete with one of the bigger carriers.
That actually has been hugely helpful for us. over the last couple of years, with all the different cost increase, we've been looking and challenging our partners, as I mentioned a couple of times, on how do we decrease costs. And parcel costs for us have gone down substantially because of this initiative. And to our customer, we used to say, you can choose 2-day shipping. It's FedEx. Now it's just choose 2-day shipping, and we'll charge you for the 2-day shipping. But then we can kind of go through this algorithm and get a much better cost. So our parcel costs have gone down, and so that's a good example of you guys investing in that and how it benefits us.
And that's really important. And I'm not really sure of the makeup of folks in this room, but when you're thinking about this win-win value proposition, every day we need to be thinking about ways that we can make your business better. We can maintain our small fair profit, but allow you to be competitive in the marketplace. And hopefully, the true win here is if I can offer you a better service at a lower price and still maintain my margin, that's a win for everybody.
And that's the same exact thing for us to our customer. So it's kind of an upstream effect. So totally agree.
So as we start to wrap this up here, it's interesting. We're at this point in our career where we could be a little reflective of the past, right? And if you think about, Scott 10 years ago, right? Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go attack the world, and so now what I want you to do is think about Scott kind of 10 years from now. So where do you see the business going? How do you see the business changing? Change always happens. Today, change just happens faster. So, what do you think is on the horizon?
I certainly hope for our brand that we're a resilient brand who's here to stay. I think it's a really unique brand, and I hope people here get to experience it in some way, whether it's a product or in a store. So I'm really proud of what we've been building, and so I think that it being here and being a major force in apparel is something that we're excited about. I think that's really going to be, going back to your omni-channel perspective, I mean, there's a lot on that slide that you had. For us, we've got this we have the DTC portion of our business, the brick and mortar portion of our business that we're continuing to grow, and wholesale's on the horizon. And for us, that's a huge, opportunity. We feel like there's just so much more exposure, so much more of an opportunity to meet the customer where they are, and so I think that for us, it's probably a split of 30% wholesale, 30% retail, 30% online, and maybe the rest, kind of on Amazon, which I do feel like Amazon deserves its place in almost omni-channel. It's annoying. I hate, giving them their cut, but the reality is 56% of online product searches go through Amazon, so we look at that as it is an animal that we have to deal with, and it's almost a defensive play, but it's part of our omni-channel experience, because, even if I'm, at a wedding or something like that, I'm ordering from Amazon because I need something in a day or two, and guarantee you're going to get it. So, but for us, it's about being where our customer is and having a real presence in those three real specific channels. And I think, ideally, we didn't talk too much about it, but speed versus accuracy on delivery, I do hope that we're in a place where we're able to deliver product to the customer a lot faster. I think the reality is the customer's not expecting that right now, but I think they're going to start to expect it. It does decrease return rate, and I think it also improves repeat order rate and how quick they are to reorder. So I think there's some of this stuff about, I'd like to be using our stores as many warehouses filled by a bigger warehouse. I think there's a lot that we have that would unpack there. So I think technology advances there, being, in many more places where our customer can reach us, and I'm hoping to be a part of it.
There's that adage, right? There's three things. There's fast, right? And there's right, right? Yeah. And then there's, I don't remember the third, fast, right, or something. You pick two. Yeah. Can you be fast and can you be right, or can you be, so the reality of it today is you need to do them all.
Yep.
Right? The one given is that you're going to buy something and it's going to be delivered correctly. It's going to be first quality. You're going to have a terrific unboxing experience.
Yep.
Because that is your brand. That's the brand's. And so today we have to be on top of our game, and it's a given that it's going to be right, it's going to be on time, and the customer's going to be happy. And then you got to try to enhance the experience.
And for people in this room too, it's interesting that we've seen more and more, especially over the last year, our customers are asking to know, not just the day it's being delivered, but when it's going to be delivered, a window. I mean, that we're not able to support that yet, but in our focus groups, that's what people are kind of asking about. And they care less about it being so fast. I think that, I want to build something so that we are able to support that when I think that will eventually come, when speed becomes, kind of top of mind again. But right now, that window is interesting. And your point on the unboxing experience, that's really important for us too. When I kind of painted the picture of our stores and kind of walking in, there's a shuffleboard table and warm lights and kind of wood tones, a beer if you want one. We can't obviously do the exact same thing at the unboxing experience, but I do think we invest heavily in our packaging, and making sure that we deliver on time, and when the customer gets it, if you get some flimsy poly bag, it kind of sets the tone for the product. So or if you get something substantial, so we use kind of almost like this butcher paper color, but it's much more substantial. It's gutsy. It feels expensive. It feels elevated. And we have got a box if you've got more items. And there's kind of an irreverent, irreverent kind of quote on there. If you want, you're going to look like Ryan Gosling or something like that. I think our lawyers told us to take that off, so now it says something else. But I just think that it's a great, gets a smile from somebody. It feels expensive, and then you open it up, and then you kind of go to the product. It sets a tone for.
So fast, right, or cheap?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You pick two.
Yeah.
Right. And so the reality of it is, we need to do them all. So the last point I'd like you to make here, right? Other than coming to Vegas and on an expense account, and eating great food, and I'm hoping that everybody's here to kind of learn and to grow and to learn from everybody's experiences. So what advice would you give people in this room? From your experience working for larger firms, your experience being an entrepreneur, your experience being a part of a growing business. What wisdom could you pass on to these folks?
Oh man, I'm sure I could get a lot more wisdom from everybody out there than I can pass on to you guys. But the couple things that I've learned that I think that I just double down on is just obsessive about product and obsessive about brand. I think you dilute either of those two things and you start to lose, the grip on your business. I think being diligent about and disciplined about financials, I really didn't understand in the 20 teens when growth was, we talked about it earlier, I just didn't get that. It didn't make sense to me. So I'm a big proponent of that, and I think you can kind of see what you're working on and see the future, and I think it helps you build a healthier business. And I think the biggest thing is surrounding yourself with great people, great partners. It makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable. So I'm sure all things that everybody would agree with, but yeah.
One of the things that we talked about briefly was this kind of win-win business. And this is something that we really pride ourselves on, and I believe you do too as well. When you get to partner with your customers, where you become a part of their business, a very important part of their business. And so, I encourage you all to hit this code. You'll be able to watch a commercial that combines Mugsy with Ryder, kind of whimsical, a nice play on your brand and your culture and our ability to delight your customers. So I certainly encourage you to do that. And then last, if you would like to get a copy of our survey, there's another QR code here that you can feel free to hit on your phone, and you'll get a copy of our survey. And there is a stat, and I don't know what it is, so Troy's probably going to be mad at me, but customers are much more prevalent now to have scheduled time deliveries. It's something that's very important to the customers, and it's something that came out on here. So with that, we do have a little bit of time left. Scott, I want to thank you for being a friend, being a terrific partner, and making the trip to join me here on stage. Thank you guys for your time today, but if anybody has any questions, we got a couple minutes. Happy to answer questions.